Hi, I'm Sally Kirkman from sallykirkman.com, and I'm here today with Christina Rodenbeck from the oxfordastrologer.com. And we're here to talk to you about astrology, the month ahead, also looking at what's been going on. And it's quite exciting times, isn't it, Christina? How have things been for you? Okay.
Well, it's what a month we've just had, and the previous month, and what a month to look forward to. It's up and down. Yeah. It's been up and down for me. I've been traveling a lot, as you know. I'm now back at home. The weather is unreal, which is really what we've been. Sally and I were talking before we started this podcast, and we've just had a very long conversation. Because it's been such a strange time that we've been through, and we're expecting it to continue in its strangeness. And we realized that it's been very Uranian, didn't we?
Yes.
And we're just coming out of that full moon in the middle of August, which made an exact square to the planet Uranus in Taurus, and it was an Aquarius full moon, so it was very Uranian. And actually, I was just telling Sally, it's really, to cut a long story short, how my husband had a meeting on that day, and it's important that you know that it was the day after his birthday, so obviously the full moon was right on his chart. And he had a meeting with someone, and it seemed fine. And luckily he had a meeting, and he was with his brother, and they came away from the meeting, and they were like, yeah, we did really well. We won. We negotiated that fantastically. And then about half an hour later, they looked at each other and they said, that person was not the person that he said he was. Actually been talking to someone who was impersonating someone else. And I was thinking, why is that happening on this Aquarius full moon? Because I'd been quite worried about him, and it's to do with that Saturn-Uranus square, don't you think? Yes,
it is. I mean, we talked about it. I think we were both a bit, what is this full moon going to be about? Because the Saturn-Uranus square that dominated 2021 is back, and it was really back kind of, I think, at the beginning of August, actually, because there was the Mars-Uranus conjunction, and then Mars in Taurus was triggering the Saturn-Uranus square really from the beginning of the month. But very obvious, I think, at that full moon on August the 12th. So, there may be people listening in who also had kind of weird experiences or things going on, a little bit bonkers. And I've just had this, and of course, it's going to get closer. It gets very close October. I think they're about 1 degree apart, and then they just move away at the end of the year. So we're back in this sort of Saturn reality. Uranus, which we've kind of been talking about and discovering, is sort of unreality, isn't it? I mean, really.
Well, I think the best word that we've come up with was surreal, because by the way, this impersonation made no sense.
Yeah,
it was why would you do that was really why what we came out of. And I've had some clients who've also had really sort of weird, crazy ass stuff happen around that full moon and in that beginning of August. Because you're right, it's all been those first few weeks. It's been August. Has been surreal. Now, even my experience in the United States at the beginning of July was surreal, some of it, and was triggered by this, this Uranian atmosphere that's going on.
Yeah.
And we're moving towards, of course, the station, which is coming on the 24th. And when you get to a station, which means a planet turns retrograde, that you get intensity. It starts to intensify whatever the atmosphere of that planet is. And it's interesting that it's in, it's Uranus and Taurus. So it's real surreal, if you see what I mean. It's real life things happening.
Yeah, just to sort of add, I think the other, because I've just been having years of Uranus transits. I've been living them, so much change in my life. And I felt very kind of displaced and disconnected from reality, from society in a way. It's kind of the norms of society, conventional life. I was really getting a lot of confrontation head on that, hang on, where I'm at in my life, I don't fit in.
Yeah.
I don't fit in. So there's also, that theme of Uranus is playing out really strongly. And one of the things that gave me comfort during this period, I binge watched season 4 of Stranger Things. I mean, Stranger Things talk about Uranus, and it's kind of, there's an upside down world there. It's not, they've got their reality. They're Hawkins, the town of Hawkins, and there's this upside down, topsy-turvy world that's underneath them, above them, beyond, wherever it is. So, I mean, that just kind of thought, no wonder I was quite enjoying losing myself in that.
And literally Stranger, Uranus, Things, Taurus, right? Yeah. That is Uranus and Taurus, right? I mean, the other person that I was worried about was my daughter. I thought, oh gosh, how's this going to work for her? She's Taurus. She's got Uranus on her sun. She's got this full moon at right angles to her chart. I thought, first of all, be careful of fire, because she was, because Mars is involved with this as well. And in fact, she had a fantastic time on the full moon because she went to a festival, right? And a festival that was completely weird, and you get out of your head and you're not in reality at all. You just think, okay, that's it. I'm not doing reality for this time. So she went to, the Boomtown Fair, which is one of these festivals which is completely invented space. Invented just for that time, which is perfectly surreal. So this is now our advice, isn't it, for this Uranian time, Uranus turning retrograde, really. I mean, so we're feeling its intensity on the 24th as we move into Virgo season, is either find a rave or do something, that is a bit weird or out of reality. Do some, embrace the surreal in a way, and forget real. And understand what's real life and what's not real life, because that is danger, isn't it? And we also, the other thing we have in Britain going on is the surreal Tory party leadership. I don't even know the race. I mean, we have a ridiculous person. I mean, they're actually, if it weren't, I mean, it must be hilarious for people outside Britain to watch because they're two fools.
Well, they're caricatures somehow, aren't they? I keep thinking it's like the Battle of the Muppets. It's like two Muppet characters. They're caricatures. They have no sense of what's going on within our society at all, both of them for different reasons.
Which again is this Uranus Saturn square. It's this, they're not grounded, right? They're just talking.
Yeah. And they're not of the people, are they? They're not of the people at all. They're not
Aquarius, the Aquarius is the people. Right. And they're detached from that. Yeah. So there's this huge split with this. I mean, I can not stand to watch them because they are, of course, going to be even more destructive, continue the destruction that's been going on. Because the other surreal, the kind of conflict between like what's real and what's talked about in the media, what's really happening and what's talked about in the media, there's this disjuncture, isn't there? There's this disjointed. I keep on thinking about I've been very bothered about the rivers, around here and in the whole country. The fact that they're completely, they've been completely polluted. They're the most polluted in Europe. And we are the only country in the world that has completely privatized its water systems. And that is reality, people's water, and it's also people's reality here that their energy prices are going to go up by, what's the latest number? Is it
76%, 80%, that kind of figure in October, and then
80%, something like that. I think Martin Lewis, the great moneyexpert.com guy, says I think it's at 80% now. So that is reality. The reality is that the actual people will be experiencing a Saturnian thing in the sign of electricity, right, which is Aquarius. The actual people are going to be experiencing this terrible actual theft. In fact, it's a theft of their money, because the other side of this is that the shareholders in these companies, electricity companies, are still getting their dividends.
And their profits tripling.
their profits tripling.
Their profits tripling. And interestingly, Uranus in Taurus, the sign of the money, it's kind of Uranus takes away, splits off, it's the money's kind of going out of the pockets of the real people, the majority of people, but going into the pockets of other people. Yeah. It's kind of, take from the poor and give it to the rich. That's what's happening at the moment.
It's literally that. It's literally that we're seeing. And it's quite extraordinary that, that it's become, it's always been obvious, but it's become incredibly obvious that and in fact, that our government seems to be organized to take from the poor and give to the rich. I mean, you can now look at the statistics of what happened during the pandemic of who made the money.
Yeah.
You can look at the numbers of who made the money, and it's friends of the government. So we're living in this surreal, it is quite surreal. It feels completely bizarre that nothing can be done about it as well. Speaking of which,
we maybe need a blooming revolution, Uranus, but we all just sort of put up with it, and oh God, it's awful. Talk about it, but
I mean, well, one of our issues is, and this brings us to Virgo season, doesn't it? Is the
you're going to say
the way this country is structured is that you have the people in government, and then you have the opposition to the government, and you have a leader of the opposition. And the leader of the opposition is a Virgo.
Yeah, Keir Starmer, he is.
Sir Keir, who is lovely, a very nice man, but he is not the Rottweiler that we need.
No, Virgo isn't a Rottweiler. No, he kind of confirms it, doesn't he?
He confirms it. He doesn't have that kind of he gets the details right. And this is very Virgos, to get the details right. He means well, but he doesn't have that killer instinct that you need in your politicians.
No, it's true. It's true. He's a nice guy.
Very nice. He's very nice. He's good looking.
Yeah. Well turned out, Virgo.
Yeah. He gets the details right. He's correct about many things, but he's not.
Yeah.
He's not. And I feel that he doesn't see himself quite in the role of protector enough. We need someone who feels themselves to be protecting the people.
Yeah, interesting.
We need protection from the ravening, what are they called? The ravening asset strippers who have stripped the assets of this country.
Yeah.
Not to get political or anything. I know that this is not
I know. I thought when you were talking about Virgo season, you were going to go into the harvest, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did. I thought you were going to talk about the harvest because, of course, Virgo is harvest season. And, with all that's going on, this intense heat as well, and this kind of bizarre weather that we've been having throughout, Leo season. I mean, it's been unusually hot in the UK, Europe, I think other areas around the world as well. The weather's just going bonkers.
It's been unreal. I mean, it's been so hot here that my garden actually looks like someone has taken a blowtorch to it.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm really not exaggerating. It's crisp.
Yeah, and we have hose pipe bans all over the place now, don't we, in the south of England? So you've just got to let it go. You can't have an abundant, beautiful, moist, fertile garden right now. It's all. So we're moving into Virgo season, which is the season of the harvest. But what are we able to harvest? Is there as much food that we would like to take for the winter? I mean, traditionally, Virgo season was about you gather the food and you literally sort the wheat from the chaff, and you get your food ready and prepared for the, moving through the winter months in the Northern Hemisphere. So you're ready until new life comes again in the spring, and then you can start sowing seeds and growing. I mean, that's one of the real visual aspects of the zodiac. And this is Virgo season. So it's going to be interesting to see what.
And Virgo is often depicted as a lady carrying a sheaf of wheat.
Yes.
Or a sheaf of corn.
Yeah.
And as you say, that's what's supposed to happen. Of course, having had Brexit and gotten rid of all the people who actually do the harvest in this country, They've been having farmers have been having to have had to hire people from as far afield as Indonesia, for example.
Yeah.
Which is
yeah.
mad. Also surreal. Uranus and Saturn, it doesn't make sense. But that's actually what's been happening. And lots of crops are going to be lying in the fields again.
Yeah.
I don't know how many years it's been now that there's been this problem with actually harvesting here, which is quite interesting, isn't it? As a phenomenon astrologically, I mean, what one would associate with this long period, it's not been that their crops haven't grown, it's that they haven't been harvested.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head what that astrological theme would be, why. But I think also one of the things moving into this Virgo season, and also we've got, Mars in Gemini now. It moved in on the 20th and it's there forever. So we've got the Sun and Mars both moving into mutable star signs. So there's this real mutable energy. And that kind of makes me think, we're ducking and diving, we're trading and sharing. There's a lot. We've got to change the way we do things, actually, moving into this mutable season. There's always mutable signs are kind of flexible, adaptable. They're able to swap things. So it's a very different energy right now, moving forward in the month ahead.
Do we want to start with we've kind of started going into what the month ahead, haven't we? So shall we start with that Uranus station on the 24th? Or
I'd quite like to go to, well, I think we've talked about that, haven't we? It's kind of, in a way, we have, again, we're going to be feeling this bonkers weirdness, I think, in the world with Uranus, or displacement, disconnectedness. I mean, that's what Uranus does, in a way. So it's intensifying, and it's starting to intensify the Saturn-Uranus square again.
Yeah, I mean, it already has. It's a continuation of the weirdness that we've had for the last couple of months, really.
I mean, what we must go on.
I was just going to say, because Uranus just continues to be making a conjunction to the North Node, right? So we're going into the North Node and Uranus are very sort of future oriented. So one of the things that we might see more, is what's the future going to be like? What are the possibilities of the future?
Yeah, and we need radical change, don't we, for many things? The system is broken in many ways, so we need radical change. And Uranus, the plus side of Uranus, it can do that. It's about innovation, it's about new inventions, it's about new technologies. That's the plus side of Uranus. And also, I kind of, this is, if we're getting back to the star signs, I mean, obviously going to be very important for Aquarius. And I did have an Aquarius client who kept saying that what's going on, that things keep breaking down on me. And I wonder also whether that's to do with the, whether it's to do with the Saturn-Uranus square. I mean, Aquarius, she's an Aquarius, Aquarius is at the crux of this. So the things, what is broken, what needs to be fixed, there's that kind of theme as well.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff is going to break. There's more things to break. I do feel that because Uranus is in Taurus, we actually, I think I've said this before, but I'll say it again, we have the technology for the future. We have it already. We don't have to invent new stuff. We've got the stuff. It's a matter of application. And this whole climate disaster that has been this summer, because we're probably going to have floods next, I'm assuming.
Yes.
It seems like that. We've had fire, we've had flood. What else do we need? A plague of cockroaches to wake us up. And Uranus is the awakener. It's saying, wake up to what's happening on the planet, and other things as well. Wake up also to what's happening with currency and money, because it's in Taurus.
Yeah.
So there's still, that is not settled down at all. This whole business with cryptocurrency or the exchange rate. I mean, the pound, for instance, has gone down the tubes. But it used to be one of the hard currencies, but in some places it's being treated as not a hard currency anymore. But that continues, and that may intensify again around this the Uranus station on the 24th of August. I've put up the new moon on the 27th of August, which brings in, you know, a lot of these themes. But I think
it does. And Earth, you know, there's that, as you're saying, it's really important that Uranus is in a Taurus, one of the Earth signs. We're moving into Virgo season, another the Earth signs. So, you know, the Earth is about what we produce. It's about what we own, what we earn. You know, it is all these themes of the land and money, isn't it? And the
harvest or the no harvest.
Harvest or the no harvest. It's the basics of life, really. It's the essentials. It's what holds us firm, you know, what keeps us feeling secure and safe as well. You know, go out and walk on the earth, ground on the earth when there's Earth season. So what do we think about the new moon? I mean, it's quite an exciting new moon, actually, isn't it? Don't you think? It's got a lot of energy.
Do you think so? I mean, I'm just looking at it and thinking it's making it makes a direct square to Mars.
That's what I mean.
Really, really interesting because, of course, the big news this month is Mars going into Gemini forever. It'll be there till March. Mars is going to be in Gemini till March. And as you know, it's normally like 5 weeks. So Mars being in Gemini that long is significant. Of course, Mars, every 2 years or so, Mars spends a really long time in a particular sign. That's its rhythm. And this time it happens to be Gemini, which is actually really interesting. And at this new moon, I think we'll see it begin to show its what's going to happen, because Mars brings action. So it means that there's going to be action in the Gemini part of your chart, of everybody's life, wherever that falls. That's where the action is going to be. And the reason you're going to see that action very much at this new moon is because of the square, and both the moon and the sun and Mars are all ruled by Mercury, which is making a beautiful trine to that Mars, right? So it may be quite a smooth, okay, this is what Mars and Gemini is going to be like. These are the themes, which will be different for different people. But I think we can definitely say there's going to be a lot about communications, information, young people. People may be getting, I mean, I'm wondering if young people are going to start rebelling, fighting back. There's this don't pay, can't pay, won't pay. I can't remember what it's called, about the energy issue. There's actually going to be the revolution that you want, Sally. A little bit stirring in people's language, at least.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it is interesting, isn't it? Because I often think of Mars in Gemini as a war of words.
Yeah.
You know, you start the war verbally. You know, you start speaking up. It's like you get assertive, you know, and words can be a weapon as well. I mean, that's a real kind of clear symbol of Mars in Gemini. Also, I think on this new moon, you know, new moons, they seed things, they're beginnings. So consider what you're saying yes to, or what you're starting at the end of August as well, because whatever you say yes to, you're likely to be involved in deeply for the next 7 months while Mars is in Gemini. For Geminis in particular, I think it's really, really important because it's in your star sign. You know, you could be training for a marathon, or because it's a physical, Mars is physical as well. And also for Pisces, it's interesting, isn't it? 4th house. You know, what's beginning, what new chapter at home, or for Virgo, it's to do with your career. I mean, again, the mutable signs, so Sagittarius as well, it's to do with relationships. I think for all 4 mutable signs, there's a lot of power here. There's a lot of, right, what are you going to stand up for? What are you going to start? What are you going to initiate? And use that Mars in Gemini. It's almost like also, I think, committing to something, making a promise, being accountable. You know, tell someone what you're doing, and you know, hold yourself accountable as well.
I think this Mars and Gemini, I have to say, I think it's actually very good for Sagittarius, for instance. If your relationships have been in the doldrums, this is going to give them a kick.
Yes.
It really is. And it may start then, or begin around then, which is already the end of August, is very soon. And that will continue and unfold, and there will be ups, and there will be like a slack period when Mars goes retrograde. but really it's about giving you the opportunity, and again, this is true for everybody, wherever it is in your chart, to actually really put energy and build something. And also there's that point in a building process when you need to change your mind and make adjustments, and that will come when the Mars goes retrograde at the end of October.
Yeah, it's so the last 2 months of the year and the first half of January when Mars is going to be retrograde. So it's worth kind of holding that in your mind. Also, the other thing I like with this new moon is that Mars is moving to make a lovely sextile aspect to that Jupiter in Aries, which perfects on 1st of September. So again, I think, during this new moon on the 27th of August, and then, moving to that sextile, everyone's going to get an idea again of what this Mars is going to be about in your life, what you're going to say yes to, I think, as well. So for Aries, it feels really important. I mean, Mars is in Aries communication sector, Jupiter in Aries. So that's about, starting something new, starting, I don't know, podcast, a blog, or a website, or getting out in your community and playing a role there, bringing people together. And I do like, I was just going to say, I do like the idea of the young people as well.
And I actually think for Aries, again, there's something about partnership, because this is Mercury ruled. The new moon is Mercury ruled, the Mars is Mercury ruled, and Mercury is there in your partnership sector. So it may be that someone new comes into your life, or a young person that you want to partner with, or whatever. But I think that also comes in for Aries. I agree. I think it's very exciting for Aries in particular. I think it's pretty exciting for Virgo, actually, don't you?
Yes.
Because there you are, it's going across your midheaven. Something may happen with your career. There may be sort of more money involved. You may be able to get some more money out of this. I can see the money comes in. There's a lot going on.
It's also, I think it could be a theme of changing direction as well on this new moon. Something new comes in and you set off on a new direction. I think it's also important just to kind of say that Mercury has just moved into Libra before this new moon. I think it moves in on the 26th of August. So, we have got this Mercury in Libra is playing the role of the mediator, the diplomat, the smooth talker.
Mercury goes retrograde, though.
It does, but I think you can still, particularly on this new moon, use that Mercury in Libra, particularly for the Libras. You know, who you're going to schmooze, who you're going to charm.
And it could be a very big fish that you're going to be charming.
It could,
by the way, someone really quite important, whether that's a lover or a VIP, like some important boss. You seem to have that ability to schmooze. I mean, also for Libras, just as a very basic thought, this is an awfully good time with this Mars going into your ninth house for you to start a course of study, or to go on or to take a year out and go on a pilgrimage and go traveling, something like that. It's like it can be really mind expanding for Librans. I think this kind of long transit of Mars, you may find that you're changing your philosophy, changing your ideas, and you may get a feel of that at this new moon. But the new moon for Libra, of course, is in their 12, which is also interesting. So that shift may be quite internal.
It's often a time of preparation, isn't it? When you're kind of thinking things through, working things out, working out the details, getting ready for Libra season, which starts in a month's time. But don't wait till then, get things going before then.
And also for Aquarius, this long sojourn of Mars in Gemini is quite fun.
It's play. It's play.
Sports. It's whatever gives you joy. Do more of it.
It can be
another person.
It could be a love affair. It could be a child in your life who becomes really important, in your life. I mean, it is doing the things that give you pleasure and joy for Aquarius.
Yeah, which is nice because you've had Saturn in your sign for ages, can be, even though it's your ruler, it can be a bit of a downer.
So it's saying yes to, it's committing to joy, isn't it? Pleasure.
It's saying yes, and Saturn is often saying no, isn't it? So if you're fed up with saying no, you've got somewhere you can say yes, Aquarius.
Yeah. Yeah, quite an interesting one for Scorpio, Mars in Gemini.
Yeah.
Mars being Scorpio's ruling planet. Might be about money, making money, or, investments, debt, joint ventures. I mean, it's the money sector, but it's very much linked to the house of the zodiac, the house of the chart that's Scorpio. So it's taboos, it's hidden things. It's the esoteric, it's, life beyond the veil. So, Scorpio might be writing a crime novel or going deep into Ouija board stuff, whatever, but it's really emphasizing that Scorpio side of life for Scorpio.
Yeah, it's saying go do your Scorpio stuff, Scorpio, whether that is dealing with other people's money or becoming a, witch, basically.
Yeah.
Or studying to become a witch. It's dive deeper into that.
Yeah.
Pisces might move house. That's always a possibility when you've got Mars going across that part of the chart.
Or someone may move
family.
Finally tell their family what they think about them. It could be, because Mars is anger as well. It's passion and anger. So wherever it falls in your chart, there could be a theme of conflict or standing up for yourself or being assertive. It's like, I'm not putting up with this any longer.
It's definitely disruptive, isn't it? Mars. It's not going to be smooth sailing unless you could, embracing the Mars energy is an important thing to do in that part of your life. And what is the Mars energy? Can be quite angry, but it's action energy. It's suggesting that not only will action take place in that area, but maybe you should be taking action there in order to ride that Marsy wave.
Yeah. And it is, I think, another theme for me of Mars in Gemini is walk your talk. It brings action and words together, doesn't it, as well? So it's do what you say, I always think, with Mars in Gemini. It's strong. It's quite a strong placing. I like it. Mars in Gemini, actually.
People with Mars and Gemini, I live with someone with Mars and Gemini, and their words can be bullets. They can be very direct and unaware sometimes of just how strong their words are. Just to point that out. And especially, I would say, for Aries at this point, that your words are loaded.
Yeah.
And you're able to be very attacking if you need to be. And sometimes you do need to be attacking with your words, or at least very precise.
Yes, and I think also for me, once we get into Mars retrograde, which I mean isn't to talk about for now, but it is sometimes you need to be careful with Mars and Gemini what you say or what you write, because it could come back to bite you on the butt, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say start being careful now.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe set your words on fire. Yeah. So you want to use that fire productively and not just spaff it around, not scatter, we don't want a scattergun approach. You want to target it, focused, and think about what you do with words. And that does apply to everybody, but I would say especially for Geminis themselves and for Aries in particular. And, Sagittarius, you may have that coming at you. You may have people being quite aggressive with you.
Sagittarius maybe end up in some kind of competitive situation during this time. I mean, that can play out in different ways. It could be, you're pitching against someone for a contract, or it could be that you throw yourself into a sport where you're literally opposite a competitor. You throw yourself in, I don't know, you start to learn tennis this time because it's Gemini's the hands as well, and you're up against tough competitors. And maybe go on.
It can give you, I mean, this is going to make me sound like Tony Robbins. Is it Robbins or Robinson? Robbins.
Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins. It gives you the edge if you've got Mars, right? So Geminis, man, you've got the edge, right? You've got that extra firepower that can, it's more like Mario Kart. I don't know if you play anything. I've just been given this Mario Kart. It's terrible. Yeah. I'm addicted. But you get that extra boost of energy. So off you go, with that Mars giving you the fire. So Gemini really has the edge.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? I find it, because Virgo is such a different energy. This Virgo season is very different. I mean, Virgo is kind of subtle, discerning, much gentler, I think, Virgo. But there's Mars crashing in. So wherever the Mars is, that's where the action is in your chart.
Yeah.
I think we should move on a bit and have a look what else is coming up.
Okay.
Just kind of aware of, I mean, there's the new moon kind of leads us into September. And then Venus also moves into Virgo.
That's nice. I always think that Venus likes Virgo. I don't know why. I think it's a nice place for her to be. It's nice for Virgos.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because it's my opposite sign. So people like me more when Venus is in Virgo. It's the opposite sign for Pisces.
Yeah, it happens on the 5th of September. So, and then we'll be there for the rest of this season. It's interesting because it's not, Venus is meant to be best in Pisces, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where that's unconditional love, all giving. Whereas in Venus in Virgo can be a bit more choosy about.
Yeah. And it's supposed to be, isn't it, in fall and something else awful traditionally. You have to be really careful with how these things sound so much worse than they are. Is it in detriment or fall? I can't remember.
It's in fall.
Fall, so it's like, of course it's ultra bad. But I don't think it's ultra bad in Virgo at all. I think that actually I know a lot of people with Venus in Virgo who are really wonderful craftspeople.
Yeah.
I mean, like, just excellent.
Yeah.
And it gives you an excellence about beauty that is really marvelous. So, if you're hiring a makeup artist, you want the one with Venus in Virgo.
You do.
Who's going to be meticulous and make it absolutely perfect and beautiful. And there's something about that energy which is really lovely.
And Venus in Virgo, Virgo is the sign of, it's incredibly caring and kind and being of service. So Venus in Virgo does kind of, it emphasizes that as well. Being devotional or, giving to people as well, which I think that's hopefully one way that Virgo season is going to play out, that we kind of, we learn to share what we have and we learn to take care of people. I think that's going to be so important moving forward, and not, that other, going back to Uranus in a way, I think sometimes Uranus is so independent on, you feel cut off on your own. And actually what Virgo is kind of more give to people, sort of, these kind of quiet gestures. I don't know, leave some fruit on someone's doorstep. It makes me feel of that, just, do the little gestures mean a lot with Virgo as well.
Yeah. Well, Virgo knows how to do them, right? Knows how to make the small things count. And the small mean things as well, let's be honest. Those little pricks, little microaggressions can be quite Virgoan, can't they? It's
a critic as well, Virgo, isn't it?
Absolutely. But I want to get back to your point about Uranus in Taurus, which is, as you say, can be surreal, can cut you off from reality. All of this Virgo season now, we've got the sun making quite nice aspect. It's another earth sign. So it's kind of drawing the Uranus back in. It's less harsh than what we've been experiencing during Leo season. So, and then Venus makes a really nice aspect to Uranus on the 20th of September. So later on down the line.
And there's a Sun Uranus trine as well on the 11th of September.
Exactly.
So the earth signs are working together, aren't they? Kind of bringing
really helpful. Really helpful. It kind of mellows the whole thing. Mellows a very kind of tense and anxious atmosphere, I think, that we've had all summer. And I'm not saying it's going to be much more mellow, but it gives, because of the Saturn Uranus square continues. But I feel that it is a more mellow.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's kind of moving. I think I'm hoping September's less discombobulated and all over the place, because August has been, quite frankly, weird. I quite like a bit of, settling or feeling more connected, feeling more settled inside as well. I felt very unsettled inside. I'd like to feel a bit more sort of connected, inner and outer. That would be really helpful, and grateful for that. Thank you.
I'm not sure I can guarantee that. I'm sitting here looking a little bit dubious because July was pretty discombobulating as well. So we've had 2 Cancer season and Leo season. Pretty surreal. Again, I come back to that word, surreal.
Yeah.
And I think the surreality continues, but at least it's like maybe slightly mellower. Although I also think that Mars and Gemini can be, as you say, it's a war of words, and it's going to come in with like this pop of energy. Because see, he's in there for the long haul, and he's going to be making changes. Mind you, I quite like as you say, there's a sextile on the 1st of September between Mars and Jupiter, which is nice. Jupiter is continuing in his retrograde motion in Aries. So that's still important for like Libra and the other cardinal signs, wherever that's falling in your chart. So for Libras, obviously, its relationships are continuing to be quite an important theme this year. So I get the full moon up, which is Pisces.
On September the 10th. And just to say the cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. So you've got Jupiter in kind of the key. I mean, when, that means you've got Aries is Jupiter's in your personal sector, Cancer, career, Libra, relationships, Capricorn, home and family. So it's kind of the core axis. That's where you got. And Jupiter retrograding often gives second chances as well, because it's going back, But anyway, that's Jupiter. And this is the full moon, which is on the 10th of September. And it's a really important date as well, isn't it? Because as you can see in this full moon, if you're watching on the video, Mercury, the communication planet, turns retrograde on the same day. On September the 10th, it turns retrograde at 8 Libra 55. And will move back into Virgo and turns direct in Virgo on October the 2nd. So we're moving into a Mercury retrograde phase on the same day as a full moon. That is a little bit crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. And also it's opposite to that Jupiter that we were just mentioning.
Which inflames, emphasizes.
Yeah. And so, I mean, one thing about this Mercury retrograde is we're already in the shadow of the Mercury retrograde from the beginning of the period that we're talking about, which is when the sun goes into Virgo on the 23rd of August. Pretty much we're kind of getting towards this Mercury retrograde. So in a certain area of your life, things may be slowing down and you're having to rethink. And again, this is why another reason I think we should be careful about our words from quite early on, because not only is Mars now in Gemini, the sign of words, but Mercury is already slowing down and thinking about going retrograde.
Yeah, true.
So on the one hand, it does mean that you're going to be able to undo some contracts that you may have got yourself into, which is very Libran, the idea of a contract with another person or a deal or whatever. But on the other hand, I think you need to be careful about what you've said before then. I see that.
I just want to say that, and I just want to pick up on that point that you said, undo some contracts. Do you mean undo them while Mercury's retrograde?
Yeah, if you wanted to.
Oh, okay, interesting.
I mean, take advantage of the retrograde. It's not just other people doing stuff to you, but you're thinking, okay, Mercury's retrograde. I'm going to go back on something that an agreement I made that I think was a mistake.
I mean, there is a theory with Mercury retrograde that, Mercury retrograde is a time when things are hidden and you're chopping and changing your mind. So really, you shouldn't make the big decisions until Mercury turns direct, October the 2nd. But, I see what you mean by saying that and where you're coming from by saying that. And also because it's in Libra, it does feel like kind of taking a step back from a contract or a partnership or a relationship.
Let's put it like this. I certainly wouldn't be making contracts.
No, okay.
And I would be looking very carefully at contracts.
Yeah, agreed.
And unstitching them, editing them, cutting the bits out that I don't like, and then making the actual agreement on the 2nd of October.
Okay.
But definitely this is the time to think, actually, I might have been wrong, especially if you're a Libra, I might have been wrong about this. And also, if you're an Aries, it's like that person that you made the contract with may not be quite as reliable as you thought. Yeah, it may not be going in the direction that you thought. So just have that expectation that it's not all going to be clear.
Yeah. And also, just to, I think it's very legal, isn't it? This.
Yeah, that's why we're talking about contract.
The scales of justice. Jupiter's the planet linked to the law. So there could be, the law turns as well.
There's going to be lawsuits. I mean, it'll be interesting just following that. It's very political as well. And this is just after our stupid Tory leadership thing. And we'll see who wins.
Okay.
Right. Right. But there may be some legal, and when we get into Libra season in this country, which is next season, but Mercury is already there in advance, that's the party conferences season, which is very political. So that's all the big major parties have their party conferences during Libra season. Because Libra is one of the political signs, but particularly in Britain, where there's lots of Libra prime ministers. We've had lots of Libra prime ministers.
Yeah.
So there may be legal issues here, and if you're in a lawsuit or something, you've got both Mercury retrograde and Jupiter retrograde opposite each other.
Yeah.
So it's things can turn around.
Yeah, and it is, this is because often when Mercury turns retrograde, there's a key aspect. It kind of it connects with the planet 3 times. So September the 3rd, Mercury, before it turns retrograde, is opposite Jupiter. Then it turns retrograde on this full moon, emphasizing this Mercury-Jupiter opposition. Also, Mercury's ruler of the sun in Virgo, Jupiter's ruler of the moon in Pisces. So really powerful on this full moon. Then there's another opposition on September the 18th, both retrograde. And there'll be a final opposition on October the 12th when Mercury's direct again. So something is really playing out where there's these twists and turns. And I don't think we're going to know necessarily, or you may not know what's going to come of a lawsuit, a contract, a partnership until October, actually.
Yeah, I agree. And I wouldn't put my eggs in one basket, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's interesting also that we're getting into the season. Again, Libra, it's actually more of a Libra thing of, money doing funny things again, of the markets going, whoa. Yeah. And I suspect that's also this. Mercury rules the markets.
Yeah, Mercury retrograde's often a time when the markets go a bit up and down, don't they?
It's going to be not a bit. I would suspect it's going to be a lot because Jupiter's involved. Yeah,
so really interesting for Virgo and Pisces, actually, the sun in Virgo, moon in Pisces during this full moon, because the Mercury Jupiter is your money sectors. So for both those star signs, what's going on in your life around money? Where are the contracts? What are you trying to negotiate? It could take some time to negotiate it or work it out. And you really need to kind of pay close attention to it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, the other aspect of this full moon is, of course, that the moon is making conjunction to, or it's approaching Neptune. So there is could be just a very beautiful full moon, as I associate Neptune with sort of grace, and it's coming away from Juno. So for Virgos, this may well just be about partnership, a beautiful relationship. But in general, that the moon Neptune combination is really lovely, and the sun is shining a light on that full moon. It's a great full moon to go see a concert outside,
or to write poetry, or to an art gallery, but really using the beauty of that. I agree. And the imagination, it's the moon and Neptune are so similar, aren't they? They're both great reflectors. So the imagination and let that kind of run wild during this full moon.
Yeah, trip to the seaside.
Yeah. but there's also, with this, because the Sun Neptune opposition perfects on the 16th. So, almost a week after this, when we're in Mercury retrograde territory. So then again, we have to it's kind of just be careful what you believe, isn't it? Or, there's then a theme of Mercury retrograde, Sun opposite Neptune, some untruths or things dissolving, betrayals maybe. And again, it's going to take time. You need to let that sort of unfold and explore it, see where it leads you, and really kind of make decisions, not during this full moon at all, but when Mercury turns direct at the beginning of October.
Also, there's they talk about floods, right? They've been talking about floods here because we've had this drought. The ground is very, very hard, and we're going to have a lot of rain. This is quite a rainy sort of full moon. Just saying.
Yeah, and water's needed, isn't it?
But we want the water.
There will be probably deluge of it.
Exactly. But I find it's rather beautiful because it's got the Sun and Venus on one side and the Moon and Neptune on the other.
It feels very creative, doesn't it? For Taurus and Scorpio, I think it potentially very creative time, this full moon, as its creativity sector. As well. And also, interesting one for Cancer, because the moon rules Cancer, and that's, when you've got the moon in a water sign, and the moon is your ruling planet, it really feels like you can tap into that imaginative, emotional, creative aspect of it, and really go on a kind of, it could be a proper trip, it could be a trip away because it's your travel sector, but it might be a kind of flight of fancy. It might be, you're taking your imagination somewhere for Cancer.
A head trip.
Yeah.
For Cancerians, it might well be. And if you're a writer or something like that, you work with your imagination. It's fantastic for Cancer.
Taking yourself out of reality.
Yeah.
It's a very big theme, isn't it, at the moment? What's reality and what's surreal? It's kind of, we keep coming back to this. It's sort of almost playing out at this full moon as well.
Well, the full moon also makes a nice kind of sextile trine to Uranus again. So all of that quite harsh Uranian energy that we experienced in August at the August full moon, at this one becomes softened. So if you had some kind of breakthrough, which I think a lot of people did around that full moon in August, you may be able to apply it more gently. And the breakthrough may have been a breakthrough in understanding or a breakthrough in a relationship, wherever that breakthrough was.
Yeah.
You were able to apply it more gently now at this full moon. And sort of, it's like, instead of releasing something like gasket, it all kind of comes out, the steam bursts out. It's like gently taking the champagne cork out and letting the bubbles come out a little bit, instead of a burst. So I feel that this full moon is, although, as we said, there's this really interesting Mercury Jupiter opposition going on, which looks awkward, actually. The full moon itself is quite has a gentling effect.
Yeah, it is kind of, there's, and find your escape as well, I think, a bit.
Yeah, it's the escapist. Champagne. Well, my suggestion for the full moon.
And I sometimes just kind of reading or binge watching something, you need to get off all the serious issues, get away from them. So, that feels like an important theme playing out.
Yeah.
How are we doing on time? I think we've probably been nearly talking for an hour.
I have actually completely lost track of time.
Have you?
Because I'm in a surreal place.
Okay.
And because of the Saturn-Uranus square, Saturn being the lord of time and Uranus being the lord who messes with time.
Yeah.
that's another thing another theme currently.
Yeah.
It's time going quickly and then slowly and then quickly and then slowly, or not going at quite the pace that you think it is, that feels natural. And that's part of the unnaturalness. And I think that's a word that I would use around Uranus, back to the Uranus that we were talking about at the beginning of this, which is so powerful, is unnaturalness, unnerving.
Yeah. Yeah. There's because I lost my watch actually on the beach.
Yeah.
I lost my watch on the beach and I decided not to replace it.
Yeah,
I never really know what time it is anymore, and I quite enjoy that. Again, it's like, oh well, let's not get so, which kind of feels a bit like that theme of that full moon, doesn't it? Because Virgo wants the precision, but that moon Neptune just says, oh, whatever, let's go with the flow.
When did you lose your watch? Just out of astrological curiosity.
Well, actually, it was just before I went off to Greece, so it would have been the end of June. It was a while ago, but it was this summer. And it was on the beach, which kind of, it was kind of like, okay, life's telling me I don't need to be so precise and on time. You can be more Pisces, actually, like you, Christina, and go with the flow.
I have never worn a watch.
No, okay, great. So
people occasionally have given me a watch, and I'm like, why would you do that? Don't you know me? I arrive when I arrive,
Yeah, that's the Pisces. So yeah, so there's those themes going on as well with the Virgo Pisces, isn't there? And the Saturn Uranus, as you're talking about. Similar themes playing out, but yeah, interesting months coming up. Really interesting.
I don't know, I'm excited to be having the Pisces full moon, which looks great. Yeah. And I'm relieved that we've gotten past that very anxious making full moon in August. That one.
So, that was a doozy, a real doozy.
Yeah. Full moon. Deep breaths and into the next sign.
Yeah.
So, see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time. Thanks so much for listening in. Do share the podcast far and wide, and we'll see you in Libra season.
Okay, see you later. Bye.
Bye.